All right, hello. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm Finn Scott, and I'm here to do a book review on a book on tech products marketing called Loved: How to Rethink Marketing for Tech Products. It's written by Andy Partridge, and it offers a new perspective on marketing for tech products. The book focuses on the use of love and the concept of love in order to market tech products, which the author believes is essential for building long-term relationships between customers and tech products. In the book, Partridge argues that tech companies need to move away from the traditional marketing approach of highlighting product features and instead focus on creating an emotional connection with the customers. He believes that building a relationship based on love can lead to greater customer loyalty, increased customer retention, and ultimately more sustainable growth for tech companies. Upon hearing this the first time, I was very interested but skeptical. I thought initially that while it was a good concept and comes from the heart, tech products and their features are meant to be shown off. The reason we buy so many tech products as consumers is usually based on the new special features that are offered with the different tech products. However, I read on because the idea was, in a way, inspiring to me, and it's also very different for the tech world. As we see these days, a lot of tech um, advertisements and marketing strategies are focused on what the tech products can do rather than how they can impact your life and create an emotional connection between you and a product. So I read on because I wanted to see just how Mr. Partridge was going to effectively market tech to consumers using this concept of love. Partridge identifies four key principles in building a love-based marketing strategy. The first one is understanding customers' needs and desires, which is pretty standard in the world of marketing. And as a DU marketing student, I've heard this time in and time out with different marketing plans and strategies. Most always they start with the idea of finding a problem and then working from there to create a solution that consumers will build with, and working with consumers to find their true desires and needs. The second is building trust through transparency and authenticity, which is also very important for any company, but especially tech companies with the immense amounts of tech that are coming out these days and the new progress we're making on technology. There is some fear as well going around right now with the new releases and the problems that new technology can create for us as a society. So in tech companies, transparency and authenticity means the world, as well as all our data is now held through tech. So being able to understand what a company is doing, how they're using your own data, that's one of the number one things for almost any consumer that's dealing with a multitude of tech products. His third point was the idea of creating an emotional connection through storytelling, which is a pretty new idea for a lot of tech companies, in my opinion, from the marketing strategies I've seen through different tech companies. Excuse me. And the idea of storytelling is used in a lot of different marketing realms, but rarely with the tech industry. And finally, his last point was, or his last key element to this love-based marketing strategy was continuously evolving the relationship with the customer through ongoing engagement and feedback. The author offers several examples of tech companies that have successfully implemented the love-based marketing strategies, including Apple, Airbnb, and Netflix. He also provides practical advice and tools for tech companies to implement a love-based marketing strategy, such as how to create compelling brand stories, how to build trust with customers, and how to measure the success of a love-based marketing campaign. Overall, Loved offers a refreshing and unique perspective on marketing tech products. The book emphasizes the importance of building emotional connections with customers rather than just selling products based on features and benefits. It provides actionable advice for tech companies, which is really important as well in a marketing book such as this. Rather than just look at ideas or concepts that might work, it shows actionable ways to implement these strategies for these tech companies that might be looking to build long-term relationships with their customers and create sustainable growth. So as I said, at first, one of my major problems with the book's thesis was this idea of shifting away from highlighting features as a marketing strategy. While I like the idea of introducing emotion and connection into tech products, marketing for tech products right now, without discussing the features of the product, will leave behind the draw for the current customers of what is now essentially the main utility and purpose of tech products. And the reason consumer might choose one over the other is often based on differing features between competitors. For example, if you're looking at an Apple computer versus a Windows computer, it depends on what you're doing, perhaps, but different features and different capabilities of the two computers will show you different options and might lead a consumer to go one of either ways. This being said, obviously, as I said, my main concern was that focusing too much on the connection and the emotional attachment to our tech products, while it does change our lives and affects our lives in every way, pushing away the features might dissuade customers from choosing a tech product because they don't see the features, and rather they are trying to be pulled in by an emotional connection that might not grasp them the same way if they're looking for a tech product for a specific utility or purpose. So that being my main concern, throughout reading the rest of the book, I kept thinking of Apple as a brand, most likely because it's, if not the most, one of the most successful tech product companies in the modern era. And while looking at Apple and comparing it to the four major elements of this love-based marketing strategy that Partridge identifies, I started to see the marketing strategy started to make a lot more sense to me, and the way that Partridge identifies these factors as a way for tech companies to create a different and new relationship with their customer. So starting with the four major points, the first of the four, when we look at Apple, is understanding the customer's needs and desires. And while Apple surprisingly does a very good job with this because of their ability to come out with new innovative technology, such as the iPhone that captures a really large audience and essentially takes over the smartphone world right now. While they do that, and while they're able to innovate and create really impressive new technologies, in the same way, Apple kind of struggles with understanding their consumer, and rather than trying to understand the consumer and what products they can now solve, Apple tends to go in the more straight innovative sense and works a lot on just creating new technology rather than solving a large consumer issue that a lot of marketing schemes tend to begin with. And this love-based marketing scheme kind of essentially begins with, but in a very essential way. Excuse me. So second, looking through Apple, is building trust and transparency through authenticity. And one example that Apple recently did, which helped push this idea for them, was the transparency in data collection and use. And so now when you open new apps, Apple asks you if you want to allow the app to track your data and use it for other things, maybe to specify to your personal needs or anything else that your data might help that certain app understand you as a consumer itself. So now Apple is letting the customer know and letting the customer essentially decide what data they want to be out there through what apps. So this is a step in the right direction. With data in general, I think privacy and transparency for a tech company, and think about Apple in this case, is really important, because as more and more of our lives are online, more and more of our data is online, and our identities themselves are online. So as a society, it is really important to pretty much everyone to keep that under wraps and in the right hands, for sure. So as a tech company, Apple needs to continue to do that in any way they can, and most definitely try to avoid any data attacks or anything like that, and keep a good relationship and a trusting relationship with their customer. Creating an emotional connection through storytelling, which is the third point, you see Apple do in a way where some of their recent commercials or marketing schemes tend to show off the pictures that people in our society or videos have taken on an iPhone. And in a unique way, this tells the story of how people are connecting with their phones and how they're using the features as well that Apple provides, one of which being the iPhone's excellent camera. So Apple does a good job at this. However, it strays from the concept that love provides because it's still feature-based. And rather than telling how someone's life has changed because of their Apple product, it more shows the features and a broader scheme. Rather than creating an emotional connection, it's still showing off the features. And finally, the last point was continuously evolving the relationship with the customer through ongoing engagement and feedback. Apple, as I said before, does not really communicate with its common consumer in any way that is unique or could be used to further their development of desire-based innovation. Apple's consumer communication is very formal, I would say, and the way they implement it is much more on a tech product to consumer level rather than a tech company creating a relationship with the consumer. So Apple definitely has some things to work on if it wants to adopt this idea that Partridge puts forward of using love and emotional connection to market your tech product. However, my main concern when thinking about Apple, my main concern with the thesis when I started thinking about Apple started to be shut out because I thought of how Apple is able to show off the features while almost getting to that storytelling level of marketing as well. And so I think that there is a very special and unique way that you can show off the features, which is so important for any tech product and marketing of a tech product, as well as create an emotional connection with the consumer and create a long-lasting relationship between the tech product itself and the consumer. As we all know, tech is in more and more of our lives every day, and will continue to do so as society continues to innovate, changing our lives continuously. So I think it's a really unique and important idea to have that thought of as a emotional connection and relationship rather than strictly a product and consumer relationship. Overall, I really enjoyed the book, loved how to rethink how to rethink marketing for tech products, and I think that this is a really interesting idea and concept for marketing, and I look forward to seeing it possibly implemented more and more. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.